screwing that around. Welcome. I'm karenann macdonald. I'm so excited. And this is an interesting conversation we're going to have. I have got actually Fiona Gardner here. And Fiona and I actually, Fiona, you reached out, I think it was 2016 when I did a show with Jimmy Church. And I was blown because I got to just share something quickly with you. When I did that interview, he said he'd been trying for a year and he was totally blocked. He says, I couldn't get you on email. We couldn't get you on phone. He says, our team has tried for a year to get you booked, Karen. I said, are you joking? So as soon as he got through, I said, well, we better do it right away in case someone interferes again. And so I was up north of Saskatoon, where I had my health centers, and I was visiting an Atakakoop, one of the Cree Nahiwak reserves, with some of the natives up there. And I had 30 people come to me and tell me all sorts of ET abduction and UFO and every kind of myth you can possibly think of. I got to see firsthand. And I went, they're not dousing me, man. And while I was on Jimmy Church, people literally came to that house where I was filming and sat down in the kitchen and waited for me and showed me their implants and every story you've ever can imagine. I will never forget that Jimmy Church interview. And it's funny that you reached out and touched me from there.
That's no, it's so yeah, it's interesting the cycles we have in life, how things cycle back round.
Yeah,
Even like just connecting again. It's a cycle. It's a period of time, and here we are again.
I did. I was just reading
Love
it.
it.
Yeah, here it was June, because I did that show. I'll never forget it. It was done in May. And this is June the 1st. You called me and said, I listened to you and Jimmy Church. You're so amazing. I find your information you posted on Tuesday night. Do you have any other pages? I got to get into this, right? And then our next thing was like recently. But I've been binging on you. Like seriously.
Oh, good.
I got to have
Good.
my Fiona binge, right? And so I sat there and I watched a couple of shows, and of course, with the live blood cell and your background, and then you also got involved. You said with the Genius Biofeedback, which we're going to get into the Insight Health app on another time, but it actually is wonderful technology when you get to use it. And I've used it in conjunction with live blood cell and dark field. And so I used to sit here and I'd do all my remedies, and then I'd go run to Dr. Ross Anderson and Lorraine Andrews in Kelowna, because we were one of the first ones to actually take those injection vials, and I had them put under the microscope while I had a war crimes judge, Alfred Weber, watching. I was like, I'm going to nail these people, right? So we were sitting there with the microscopes, and I went, well, let me see if I can make some reverse antidotes. So we'd take the blood, pre, and then we'd do my little biofeedback. And then I started making all these remedies with water and
Right.
essential oils. And I was like, this is cool. I'm onto something. And that's how I got the live blood cell girls, Lorraine and stuff, becoming, therapists and practitioners in that, because they use it in conjunction more so actually now than they probably do with the microscopes. But she said, we can do more in vibration and frequency than it would take me in 6 months of trying to, coach them nutritionally. So anyway,
Yeah.
I was just like amazed. And then, of course, I've seen you recently on a bunch of stuff to do with the urine therapy. And so it ties into everything I was looking at, in here. And I've got literally books. And Dr. Swami Narnadan called me from actually India. And he said, let's talk. And I said, so, I mean, there's a whole gamut of stuff that you've done. And you're one of the few people that you've seen the crystallization, the sacred geometry, the fractals in it. And I wanted you to talk a little bit why you think it would be positive. Because I was talking to Tony Pantallerisco, and a lot of them are scared that some of that is actually the nanotechnology. So I'm going to turn this over to you. I'm going to have you introduce yourself briefly, and I'm going to let you go with PowerPoints or whatever you want. I'm just so excited to see what you've been doing and sharing, because I'll put the other links to the two other shows that I've watched you on this year. And, like I said, it's a combination that you have knowing energetic medicine, but able to validate it, with the live blood cell. And I know I've got some amazing people that, have been so encouraged by this. So a bunch of my girlfriends have now start taking their live blood cell, like Sherry Strong in Alberta. So anyway, over to you, Fiona. You go where you like to. I'm just sitting here to absorb from you. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, so where do I start? So I probably start from where I got introduced just with working with a microscope, and that was with the Beagleson Academy. Dr. Harvey Beagleson was my doctor. I'd reached a point in my life where I'd been suffering from health for so long, and you follow everything and you do everything and you think that's going to help and it helps for a minute, but you seem to be back in the same place. So when I got to him, he kind of it changed my life basically because he had me look at the body in a different way. Instead of like being attacked all the time, or that there was these germs and bacteria and all these things that were going to destroy me. He showed me in a different way
Mhm.
of how the body works and how divine we actually are and how powerful we actually are. And that's what inspired me the most, was because it took me from being this victim, always under attack all the time and always having to go outside to find the solution to what was going on. So he really got me grounded back in my body, but I was fascinated by the way he looked at blood, because he looked at blood with these holograms that he was seeing, and how that can relate to like emotional trauma, physical trauma, where it shows stagnation and blockage in the body. And he kind of looks at like what root causes are for somebody. So
Mhm.
somebody might be doing a lot of different things, thinking that's going to make them well and healthy, but it's not actually getting to the root cause of something that
Exactly.
needs the attention. So that's where I got fascinated, because he showed me the blood for the first time. And when he showed me, I just saw what just looked like the universe. And I remember the first thing he said to me. He said, you have the cells and then you have the space in between. And he would say, so this is the plasma field. And I was like, plasma field. And we could see all these sparkling light, and different things going on. And it was like beautiful. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, this is your chi life force. Without this, you can't live. All life possesses it. When we die, it goes back into the soil and becomes new life, basically. That's the loop, that's the cycle. So I was just fascinated. And I also, because then how my health changed, and I worked there in the clinic, so I saw how other people's health changed. So fast forward 2020. I'm still doing the microscope work. I'm also learning soil biology. I'm looking for, it's just been this ever, you have that force in you that just makes you look for something specific
Mhm.
all the time. It's just a
Yeah.
force and energy. So I was looking for something and I got like really frustrated, broke down, couldn't figure out what it was. And I just had this whole moment where I felt like God in my body. I was so still, I was so quiet. And it just said it's in your waters. Didn't know what that meant. So I Googled, because I don't know what's this about. And urine therapy come up. But then I was like, so then I Googled like urine and I learned, and it was like ultrafiltrated plasma. And my head, I was like, what? I hadn't made the association.
The
I was
connection. Yeah.
still cut off from that relationship in myself, because well, it's just like everything in life. So that's when I thought, okay, I'm doing this. I'm gonna start. This makes total sense. Like when all the done, everything just falls into place and all the bullshit drops.
Mhm.
So I started urine therapy. I was a week in, and that's when I went, oh my gosh, because it's something I wish I'd done before I started, that I'd looked at it, before I started urine therapy.
Mhm.
But I was already a week in, and I thought all that I was thinking at that time, oh, this is going to be cool. I wonder if I'll see the holograms in blood that I see. Would I see the holograms in the
Good transfer over.
urine that I see in the blood? Because it's plasma, okay? And this is that dynamic, like this is the life force. So I looked at it and I could see, yeah, there were certain holograms. I could see a lot of motion. And this is what fascinates me the most. So talking about health, how do I know? I think from what I've learned with Harvey, with how he looked at the plasma field and the activity of the
Mhm.
plasma field, he was able to determine somebody's vitality and health. So he would put that into like categories. So as I was looking at them, I could see the whole plasma field. There was motion, there was movement.
Mhm.
Um, and what's very specific in somebody that's healthy is their plasma, when I'm looking at it, it will spiral. It has spiral motion. It's active. It's not still, right? So there's this all this activity, there's currents, there's whirlpools, and then it contracts and expands. It literally and it does that as I'm watching it. It'll expand, it'll contract from its boundary, and then it'll move back. It breathes. And
Right.
sometimes it will expand out into the field, like it's searching, like it's going out reading its field. Because
Yeah.
if I put a drop on one end of the slide and on the other end, and if this is very active, healthy plasma, the plasmas move towards
I
each
come
other.
toward it, I would say.
Yeah, if somebody is if the, because I've looked at a lot of people who are sick, who have issues, who have problems, who have labels, and I look at their urine, there's nothing. It's like a void. It's like nothing is happening. There's no movement. And that then goes into like crystallography because somebody who's healthy will show a different printed out like crystallography.
Hmm.
Whereas somebody who isn't, you can tell there's no coherence.
Right.
Things look structured, but they can't line up. They're disconnected from each other. The communication isn't spreading across the systems. They can't fill in the space. It's like there's I can see those differences because what I did in the beginning, because this has been nearly 5 years,
Hmm.
and I love Vader Austin's work. I
Yeah.
love Moto stuff. I got hooked on him way back. Um, but I didn't, at the beginning, it was really clear not because I was showing up with curiosity and wonder.
Hmm.
I was loving it. This is fun. I don't call this work. It's like so much fun that just like, I'm just hooked. So I really felt like, because I was seeing Vader's work, I didn't want to impress on it.
Right.
What was really clear to me was that I needed to sit for long periods of time to observe patterns. So that's what I was doing. And I would sit for like 15 hours a day in the beginning, 7 days a week, and it was like, just observe patterns, take pictures. So I've been in that frame of like observing, taking pictures, because I've still got to backtrack 2 or 3 years because I have so much information that's
Hmm.
now even more relevant now. So I just stayed in that so that I could observe, okay, that looks healthy. That looks vibrant. That's got life. That doesn't look like it's got life or vibrant.
Right.
And then I started seeing, can I just show this?
I would love to. If you could share some pictures in your PowerPoint.
Let's see. Oh, classes. Participant, more. Let's see. Share.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll just,
Perfect. It's up. Great.
okay. Um, I can't get it to go any bigger for some reason, so it's
It's
probably
perfect. It actually
seeing.
looks, yeah, it looks
Okay.
great, Fiona.
Okay, so one thing that I was starting to notice, specifically in people who have more health,
Hmm.
right? And I was looking at the time a lot at mine, also people in the urine community that were doing urine. And I've also looked at people people that we feel like have that high frequency, who are really in their life with fullness and motivated, they have passion,
Right.
right? Their plasma will show green. And this is what fascinated me. I never thought like when I'm looking at plasma, when I was looking at the beginning, it just looked transparent or it just looked like a snowstorm. But over a period of time, I was with looking at more people and looking at mine. They have
Hmm.
they have tones of color, which is like a frequency. So so we have this green and so the word, like when I was even trying to describe this, because people say, oh, well, what do you think plasma is? It's really hard for me to take a word and put it on something and put it in a box because things have just become too fluid and
Right.
too and so it's more about the motion. I was like, well, what does this mean, this green? And all I could feel was like this word viridatus. And I was like, what is that about? So I had to like look at that this is the divine, this is life-giving, it's a creative, power empowering force. And
Hmm.
also what it shows is that a body is very hydrated, that their system is actually the way their cells are producing water, it's on. It's doing it. So they're very hydrated, their body's probably self-correcting. And then the blue, the what, Carillium. So I started looking at babies, newborn, and children.
Oh,
What?
interesting.
Because I was guided right to feel, because here I am looking at older people's urine, people that have got, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted, well, the sense I was feeling was, what's the original hologram? What's the original print? Where,
The blueprint.
and then so that's when I was like guided into where with children and they are blue. Their plasma is blue,
That's
like
interesting.
like the skies and the heavens. So I learned so much from just observing children to be able just to see patterns. Um,
There's such a huge difference I find in that. I mean, I'm a former neonatal intensive care nurse,
all
nursery
right.
nurse, and yeah, working with pediatrics. So, I mean, I've been nursing 42 years, but 15 of it was in neonatal. So when I'm seeing this from the blood work, and then later being trained, Dr. Paul Duran from the IQUIM University, right? So one of the few people, first doctors to start doing live blood and then moving into biofeedback. But it's phenomenal when you actually see the actual difference. And I've actually literally done like an Eldon card with someone, and that individual had actually blue blood. It looked very turquoisey. And I was like, you
Wow.
got to have an original bloodline. I said, that's from the original like progenitor kind of race. Because when
Oh,
people say
wow.
everyone, yeah,
Okay.
when they say everyone bleeds red, I said, no, they don't. I've actually seen, I think, with
Right.
the oxidation with the extra copper, but this individual definitely, it was an O negative. And from the original,
That's
where we
me.
have the, yeah, yeah, and I have AB positive, right? So it's like the
Okay.
original ability, the original,
Right.
royalty, right? The
My
same way,
mom's AB positive.
is
Yeah.
she?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Little Eric
My dad's O negative too. Yeah, that's the combination.
phenomenal. But yeah, with the children, this fascinates me with the
Yeah.
lineage. Do you see a difference, just speaking of that right now, like quickly while I'm thinking about the differences? Because I mean, at one point in nursing, we are taught you've got 8, and then there's no, so that's maybe 9. And then when I really got into it and I saw that what the rare blood types were, there's over 60 on this planet that I can
Right.
find. And so do you notice the difference that you can even categorize that way just quickly or?
In relation to different blood groups,
Mm-hmm.
it was
Your
actually
age.
so no, but it
Mm-hmm.
actually came up for me because some of the people that had sent me their urine, I did ask them, I sent them that question. I said, I'm really curious what your blood type is. Oh, I don't know, and I don't want to they don't want to go and check it out, and stuff like that. So no, I haven't fully
Okay.
gone. But what also I've seen, even though I see this blue mostly in like children,
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it show up in some specific adults too. Not all the time, but sometimes it's there also, but it's more commonly I'm at the moment seeing it in children and really young people. So in my mind too, I was like, um, this is what I made up, that this is where we start in this blue space, right? This is how we come in. This is our incarnation. This is our divine connection still to God and the heavens. This is just everything that we are. And this is where we're meant to gradually move to is the green, the hydration. But that was just a thought that I had, but because the blue is still very hydrated also because
For
most
sure.
of the children I was looking at were breastfed too. I wasn't looking at vaccinated children because that was just what was coming into my field. Not that I was not resistant, I was resistant to it. It's just that just wasn't showing up for me. So I was just really aware of what was showing up, whose plasma I'm looking at, because I'd been looking at a lot of people who were sick and I was kind of tired of doing that.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
And I was tired of being with people that in that way. So I was like, okay, I need to move this in a different direction. Um, and just to keep observing, looking at patterns so that whatever, whoever this is perceiving all this in relation to that is gonna interpret the information in its own way.
Do you find there's a correlation also between the type of water one that would drink or ingest? So, for example,
Yeah,
when I was actually hanging out with David Wolf for a long time,
yeah,
Mr. Findaspring.org, right? And I did. I mean, I still to this day go up, up to the springs, go get my jugs, put whatever I need, my, essential oils
yeah,
or ozone or MMS or whatever it else is I want to restructure it with and crystals around, whatever. We're on the plate now, like through the genius to clear stuff. But one of the things I found is that just for the sheer gigglies, I went and got some distilled water. I thought, I just want to do this just for like 3, 4 days. So I went and got a gallon or so just to drink. And I could tell in 3 days, all of a sudden everything tasted like heavy metals coming out. And I haven't had mercury in my, system for probably like 15 years. But do you see that difference between spring water, those living waters, as opposed to someone that's on city tap or RO or something? Does it
yeah.
translate through the blood and the urine for you that you find?
Um, I think it has a massive impact on the water of the body or how that then moves through the system. Because I was looking at bottled water, tap water. I'd go out into town, to certain places where they have like the bathrooms, and I'd collect the water there to have a look at it. And just what I was seeing was, it was really, I wasn't seeing anything. That was the whole point. There didn't seem to be any energy in the
Wow.
water.
Yeah.
So it was like, I just assumed that was like early on. There must be just something to do with the setup of my microscope. Um, so I went, what I specifically did, so I
Mm-hmm.
was looking at rainwater. I found,
Oh,
and stuff like that. But the water that I found most interesting was deuterium depleted water.
interesting.
So that's kind of like what at the poles, but I also believe, the water in the ground is the same too. There's
Yeah.
something magical about water that comes up from the ground. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at that yet, just because there's just so much going on and I can be so distracted and so many different things. So I'll just go, sorry, I'll just go to this image I have down here. So I did a whole study on myself. So because I'm I'm the experiment. I've been like that all through my life. I'm like, okay, I've got to like see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So because the waters were really calling to me because I'd been on urine therapy now at this point it was nearly three years, right? And I'd got to the point where I actually didn't want to drink water anymore because I didn't like the taste. That was the first thing. And then it was like, I don't really want it. And I felt really hydrated. I look at my blood, I look at my urine, I'm like, this is good. This is information for me. So then
Sure.
I got really curious then looking at water and how we treat water, how it gets bottled, just the whole process. The water trauma that goes on this planet is intense. And I am really big on like, you're pissing your life force away. When you take your water and let it go into a system that's going to poison it and put
Mm-hmm.
toxins on it,
Mm-hmm.
this whole collective soul consciousness, all your memories, all your creative life force is being
Understand.
packed and lumped together with a collective of other people. It's being poisoned and put toxins on it, and then it gets put back into the land. And here it comes again in the cycle, and we process it, or um, our future generations are going to have to process it because what we breathe in and breathe out is water. We're going to be processing that. So I am like, so my whole thing is like more honor and respect from the water you release, because we're all about the water that comes in here and oh, the oceans and the rivers. But people aren't going, oh, look at this lovely water that I piss out, basically. They're
Right.
not. They're cut off from it. They're cut off from their power force, their 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 gratitude and thanks for what that system has just gone through and created.
Mm.
We're disconnected from putting our waters back into the lands, and I feel really a lot heavy about that because the land's forgotten who we are.
For
The
sure.
animals don't know who we are because we're not putting our imprint and our blueprint back in a way that honors the cycle of life. So they don't know who we are. The animals are afraid of us, the trees and the plant. Not that they're afraid of us, but it's like we're not contributing back that life force. Because it's the same thing like I with watering my plants, because I was in ag for over 16 years. I was a
Mhm.
farmer. And, I would put the seeds and the saliva in my mouth, because I knew that information would cross over, that the plant would be in relationship with me and we'd communicate. And it creates what we need. So anyway, I've got away from this water thing. So I knew how powerful that was. So I stopped drinking water. And then I thought, and I was learning about water about a lot more and how deuterium depleted water is the water we create in our body, that breast milk is more deuterium depleted. Raw
Mhm.
milks are more deuterium depleted. So I looked at the DDW is the actual water I was drinking, and
Wow.
this is what I was seeing. So at this point, I'm blown away. I'm like, what the? This is incredible because these are golden images.
Yeah, they are.
Um, and when I think of gold and yellow, I do think of like hydrogen, that vibration, that quality. The
Hmm.
gold vibration it runs in a relationship with the green plasma also. It shows up in conjunction there. So I looked
Interesting.
at it and I was like, wow, these remind me of some things that I've seen in urine. This is a trip because I had to double check that I hadn't put urine on my slide. I had to do the whole thing over again because I thought
Right.
I'd made a mistake. The middle one, images, that was my plasma before putting DDW in.
Interesting.
So I'm not drinking a lot of water. I'm doing my urine therapy. I'm seeing it, my stuff. I'm like, this is cool. This is great. I know things are good. So after I drunk the DDW, because I was tracking it over a 3-month period, this
Hmm.
is so the last picture, this is how my urine changed to be identical to the water.
Isn't
So
it
that's what
amazing?
made me realize that whatever you're putting
Connection,
in is you are,
assimilation.
yeah.
Are. Yeah.
You are. So, and that is affecting your charge, your voltage, your electromagnetic dynamics of your body and how your body's able to work its, because we're water beings.
Yeah.
That's what we are. Everything's solidified light and water. So yeah, I truly believe that the water you put in your body has a massive impact. If it has no structure, no coherence,
Hmm.
it's just dead and flat. I don't like to say dead because the potential is still locked in it.
Right.
It's just that it doesn't have the access. There's something that's blocking the system's access to get that energy. So
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely.
I really found there was a huge difference, like, using the spring water because of the ormus, but people, for the most part, don't know the difference between surface water, a creek, or even,
Yeah.
what well water is versus that living water that comes up. And, I started feeding it to plants, and all of a sudden the plants started, ferns started going vertically. And I'm
Yeah.
like, there's something up to this. And then you freeze it, you go, okay, I'll play with the organite and all of the crystals, right? And then I would watch all my ice cubes start growing up. And I'm like, this is huge. And, giving it to animals. But once I started putting it on the plates with the genius and then re-imprinting it and reinfusing it, I
Yeah.
could see the difference and taste the difference in the water. And then I was like,
Oh yeah.
this is just absolutely huge. Just a quick question. I was talking to Tony Pantalleresco, who does a lot of stuff with anti-nanotech. What is your thoughts in some of the different things, let's say with the injections, the transmission, the shedding, we'll just say air pollution, geoengineering, with that kind of stuff coming in, do you really think that we are seeing with the fractals, would this be something, let's say, like the graphene or graphene oxide? Or do you
Mm.
think it's literally filtering it right out and recrystallizing back?
Um,
Which was kind of what this looks like
Yeah,
to be.
I feel that's the power of the body, of the water system of the body, that it does
Yeah.
that. Our body works that way. It will group things together like in a lump, can't so it's not affecting the whole system.
Yeah.
Um, yes, because I've looked into that because well, when I say looked into it's looking at I've looked at people whose blood, urine, vaccinated, and I've
Mhm.
had very different experiences. And I've also had to take in the fullness of who that person is to
Oh,
see
yeah.
what are these differences because there's so many things that we can do in our life,
Right.
and really base things that we need to connect with is our breath work, our heart coherence, nature. There's so many things that feed us, but also what feeds us is our connection to our spirit. We could call
That's
it God,
deep.
creator. So I was looking at this across people that had been vaccinated and saw the people with the stronger connection dealt with things very differently in their body to somebody that was maybe spiritually imbalanced or had lost that connection, was hopeless, maybe depressed, was maybe thinking, what's the point of me being here anymore? It reflects in their blood and their plasma. So I was able to see that there was things because I wanted to take my focus away from fear,
Right.
because through urine therapy, that's the experience I had when I started ingesting my own waters. My perception, who everything shifted and changed. I was able to take that fear thing right down. So now I don't get triggered by stuff out there. I'm
Right.
like, it comes in. I'm like, okay, I've known this has existed for a long time. I'm not attaching emotionally to this. Let's move on because there's other things we're all here to do. So
For sure.
I've been working that way with people and friends. I forget where I was going. I forgot what the question was.
No,
Um,
just I was, about we were talking about some of the shedding, what it did, and the difference
oh
between
yeah. Yeah,
connection
so I
and
have
work.
seen, there was something I saw that was unusual, but I'm not seeing because like people, I got a lot of stick here. I'm gonna
And we just got a few
find
minutes left, and then we'll wrap up part
I
one.
was getting a lot of stick from people when I was starting to show images like this. And that's kind of like other things were occurring around people at that time. So I kind of stopped showing this stuff because I just thought I don't think people are ready for it. So I share it privately with other people, but it's definitely coming out a little bit more now. I'm sharing it because
Mm,
no, the like people say, oh, that's nanotech. I'm like, it's not nanotech. My
no,
my microscope can't even look at nanotech. I can't do it. I don't have the sophistication of my equipment to do this. And
right.
the other thing that I was looking at this, I'm like, is this a hologram or is it actually there? Is this information? So I was curious and like the
Mhm.
just the download I was getting and the images was no, then this is interface. This is code. This is
Yeah,
living geometry. This is how we work. This is how you interface. Because I had to look at myself. I was shown an image. Like my body is out here.
exactly the biofield.
I'm in this field and this human design sits in the middle. So this field is in communication with everything. And that through my life as a child, teenager has been the thing. Like I've been very aware of this field because of how I'd pick up information because it got to a
Yeah.
point in my life that I thought there was something wrong with me, that I was making things happen. When you can read like somebody in something and it happens, because I was young, I didn't understand. I was just a child. So this has always been able to feel, and I
I
just
have it. I
knew
can,
everything was
yeah. We're
was coming
empaths
through
too.
this
You can
way.
feel the field. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I started doing urine therapy, that field got bigger
Yeah. Okay.
because my sense of hearing could hear something a lot further away than what it was used to hearing.
Makes
And
sense.
my perceptions and senses changed. And I feel that's the same with when we drink the right kind of water, when we're out in nature, when we're grounded, when we're breathing and having attention in the heart, of this divine fluid that comes through this vortex. But there's a lot more that's going on in the heart when that blood flows through it. Like when it goes out, and it moves around as it and does. There's a pause as this divinity fills up again,
Yeah.
in this space. We are in that pause longer in the day than we're in the action, of it being pushed around the body. I think it's the diastole and I can never remember the words. I'm terrible at
Systolic and diastolic.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a whole, and there's this
Yeah.
pause, right?
Yeah.
Where through this work, what I have felt is that's that stillness point,
Yeah.
because this is where God and the soul are coming
Great.
into, and it's about to go back through the body. So you're doing that about 100,000 times a day, and we're
Yeah.
just not aware that we're having that coming in. So real attention to the breath, that heartbeat. and that system that is charging and feeding you because it's divine. People say, what is it? I don't know. It's kind of like, it's like plasma's like the energy of the soul, that's, I don't know,
Fiona,
frequency, resonance. I know we're running out of time, but
yeah, I'm just gonna say we're coming to the end of part 1 here. So, how do people get a hold of you, or explore more of the work that you're doing here? Actually, play. You and I play. We don't work, but
right. I have an email. They can email me. I'm really bad. I don't have a website yet because it keeps transforming and changing. But I have my Instagram
okay,
is a really easy place to get hold of me, messages in plasma.
perfect,
My email is Fiona Gardner, then it's 4 ones at gmail.com, all lowercase. So yeah, you can reach out, ask me, we can chat. That's normally how people get hold of me right now.
perfect. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
gonna end here, and then we'll take a